Just in that Luigi Mangione has just landed in New York at MacArthur Airport out on Long Island as we take live pictures here of the airport. Again, he went from the courthouse in Pennsylvania. He got on a plane to MacArthur Airport, and I believe he's now set to take a helicopter into Lower Manhattan, where he will go to federal court first, criminal court after that. But again, you can see the plane there. We're expecting Luigi Mangione to get off the plane. Again, he's in the custody, too, of NYPD, who went there to Pennsylvania to bring him back to New York City.
That's right. We watched, video of him going in his orange jumpsuit into the plane, surrounded by the NYPD. He faces 11 counts in New York, including first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and then weapons and forgery charges back in Pennsylvania. At first, we thought he was going to be going to state court. We now hear he's going to federal court. And we were talking to a lawyer earlier and saying the big difference with those is that if he does, when he faces these federal charges, there is the possibility of a death penalty. So that's one of the big differences. We don't know yet what those charges would be.
Yeah, the federal charge part of this is evolving. And as you heard the attorney say earlier, if he hasn't seen it or gotten a look at it, there's so much we don't know. But we have been told that, again, he is making that first stop at federal court in Lower Manhattan due to those charges. And the first-degree murder charge in the state charges, the 11 counts, where he will be in a courtroom to face in Lower Manhattan in criminal court a little bit later. The first charge of first-degree murder has the terrorism part attached to it, which, as it's been explained to us, especially by the attorney we spoke to, complicates things but gives the prosecutors the ability to certainly try for a more harsh penalty. But again, it's going to be harder, obviously, for prosecutors to prove the terrorism aspect of it.
I think we see him stepping down right now from the plane in his orange jumpsuit. You see the NYPD surrounding him. And he's on his way to the courthouse.
And again, we were told he's now going to board a helicopter to get into Manhattan. I guess we will see as he makes his way across the tarmac there. NYPD detectives were in Pennsylvania for his extradition hearing, which again had to happen this morning. And there's the NYPD helicopter that will bring Luigi Mangione, the suspect, of course, in the United Healthcare CEO murder of Brian Thompson. And he will make his way to both courthouses in Lower Manhattan.
That's right. We were talking to Allie Bauman, who has been in Pennsylvania covering him. And she was saying, when things were announced this morning in court, that he seemed, he was chatting to his lawyer. He was chatting to the people near him, seemed kind of calm. But also, she mentioned he seemed kind of zoned out, was the wording that she used. We remember that when he was going into the courtroom earlier, he had an outburst to the media. So it was interesting to hear his reaction from Allie.
And it was also his behavior that Allie was talking about in the courtroom, the outburst happening outside in front of cameras. But I believe the phrase Allie used was that he was spinning in his chair in court for that first appearance. And that today he was having conversations with his attorneys, having conversations with a court officer, I believe Allie mentioned, but that his vibe was very different. And again, this being after the extradition, he's now back in the city. And as Allie has been reporting, as well as others here at CBS News New York, if bail is denied, which it's believed it will be, he would be headed to Rikers after criminal court.
And there's so much controversy about this case. We were hearing earlier that he's actually gotten a lot of mail and messages when he was in jail. Lots of letters and emails, although I think the only people he met with were his 3 attorneys. And then, of course, everyone's reactions to the actions that have happened is disturbing to many.
Right along the press, including Allie Bauman, that was outside the courthouse in Pennsylvania, were people holding signs, free Luigi, which you may have seen on social media. But you make a good point, Cindy, that indeed it was the three visitors, three attorneys. His family has not been there, at least to visit inside the prison. So there's a lot of reporting and sort of intrigue around his relationship with his family, what they did or didn't know. But obviously there's so much to learn in the coming weeks and months as the court proceedings continue and as we continue to learn more about his background. But so much of motive in this case is still a mystery. And that was one of the things that the attorney, Rich, that we spoke to really made a good point, Rich Schoenstein, that really the motive is hard to prove as of right now because so much of the evidence is at least being withheld publicly. Those of us haven't seen it.
Yeah, and now we see, the helicopters closing up. He's going to be taking off, going to federal court. And this, everything they've been doing today has been moving very quickly. Usually these things, take a long time. And he went straight from court in Pennsylvania, went straight to this plane and was really here in a very short amount of time. So it looks like things are going to move quickly today.
Yep, getting from Pennsylvania to Lower Manhattan, you cannot do it any quicker. It's something that obviously the NYPD was focused on, making sure that by end of the day, Thursday, that he would be able to make both court appearances.
All right, let's go to Allie Bauman, who's on the phone, who has been covering this from the very beginning. Allie, right now we're looking at pictures of him. He just boarded the helicopter. What can you tell us?
Well, so right now he is, I believe you say boarding the helicopter. I can't see the images. He's boarding the helicopter at MacArthur Airport to go to New York, to go to Manhattan, I should say, where he's expected to be arraigned as soon as possible. I mean, we know that the NYPD Governor Kathy Hochul has made it a priority to get him back to New York City as soon as possible so that he can face charges here in New York City. And that is exactly what they're doing. I mean, extradition, according to legal experts, in a normal case, the case is less attention on it than this one, would not happen this quickly. It usually would happen maybe in a day or two or so. But for this to happen as quickly as it's happening, really, I think just shows how important and how much of a priority it is to local law enforcement in New York City and to the governor herself to make sure he's back and, in her words, facing accountability for what he's accused of as quickly as possible.
That was a scene earlier today at New York. He's being taken to the front of a judge in New York to be arraigned, and where they will decide whether he will receive bail or not. And of course, it's expected that the judge will reject his plea for bail. This is Luigi Mangione, who waived his extradition. He waived his right to fight to appeal an extradition from Pennsylvania to New York this morning. So he made it to New York today, and now he's going to be taken to the courthouse. And he's probably already there as we speak. Please like the live stream. This is a PDR Live this Thursday, December 19th, 2024. So this is the headline here in the NBC News. The United Healthcare CEO murder suspect, Luigi Mangione, hit with federal charges. Now, as it was stated in the video clip there, we now know why Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg added the first-degree charge with furtherance of terrorism, the terrorism accusation, because now that opens up the possibility for the feds to come in and charge him, and the federal government can, if they charge him and find him guilty, they can request that he receive the death penalty. So it seems that that's what was behind the DA's move to charge him with terrorism. The 26-year-old suspect was hit with 4 federal charges out of New York in connection with the December 4th killing of UHC CEO Brian Thompson, reports NBC News. Luigi Mangione, the suspect indicted in the murder of UHC CEO Brian Thompson, waived his right to an extradition hearing and was flown from Pennsylvania to New York Thursday afternoon to face federal charges. He appeared Thursday morning in Blair County, Pennsylvania, for a preliminary hearing where he waived extradition and was subsequently taken into the custody of the New York City Police Department. So these are some pictures here of him, some sketch artist rendition of him reading some papers, I believe, while his counsel was speaking with the judge. His attorney in Pennsylvania, of course, is Thomas Dickey. And here's another sketch of his attorney, Thomas Dickey, speaking to the court as Luigi Mangione looks on, and that was earlier this morning today. The suspect was also hit with new federal charges, unsealed Thursday, 2 counts of stalking, murder through the use of a firearm, and firearms offense. He's expected to appear in Lower Manhattan Court at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So that this was about probably happened an hour ago. He faces federal charges out of New York, 11 New York State charges in the ambush shooting of Thompson, as well as charges out of Pennsylvania. And those charges we spoke about in the previous live stream. And I even showed you guys the copy of the actual complaint that was unsealed, I think the day before yesterday. And here's a little bit of information about the federal charges. So the federal stalking charges center on how Mangione allegedly traveled across state lines. So this is the element that they're introducing. This is the excuse that they're using, that he passed through state lines. So he went from Atlanta, Georgia to New York to commit a crime. Now, in my opinion, and I'm not an expert in the legal, this is a local state crime. It's not a federal crime. Yes, he did cross state lines, but his offense was not a federal crime, because we have many cases of people around this country who murder or commit homicide, who kill a single individual, and they probably move from one state to another state to commit their crime. I can think of one case that I saw recently of a young man who killed his mom, and he crossed state lines. He wasn't charged with federal crimes at all, because the person he went from state to state to kill his mom. And he bought a burner phone. It's almost a little bit similar to the Luigi Mangione case, actually, come to think of it, now that I'm thinking of that case. This individual that killed his mom actually bought a burner phone, so he would not be tracked by authorities. So Luigi Mangione did the same thing. That individual who killed his mom was not charged with federal crimes. This is not a federal crime. But anyway, we read on. And it says here, with the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, and surveil Thompson, and use electronic communications, interstate highways, and the internet to carry out the stalking, shooting, and killing of Brian Thompson. Now, again, all of those elements that they're talking about, the other case that I just mentioned to you, the young man who killed the mom, he did all those things. And he wasn't charged federally. So I think that they have definitely bit off more than they can chew in this case. The complaint, written by a special agent with the FBI, shed new light on the notebook that Mangione was found in possession of when he was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania on December 9th. So now they're going to give us a little bit more information of what is in those notebooks, the spiral notebooks that Mangione allegedly had when he was arrested. Well, he was detained first and then arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's. The notebook contains several handwritten pages that express hostility toward the health insurance industry and wealthy executives in particular, the federal complaint said. An entry marked for the date of August 15, 2024 said, quote, "The details are finally coming together," and stated, quote, "The target is insurance because, quote, it checks every box." Now, what he means by it checks every box, they haven't told us yet. We don't know. An entry marked October 22nd, so this is 2 months later, said, 1.5 months. This investor conference is a true windfall, the complaint said. Now that's interesting that he knew about this, because I checked their website, the United Healthcare website. They announced this conference, by the way, on November, I want to say November 20. They actually announced it after Mangione arrived in New York. So I think it was November 28th when they announced it, because I went back on their website just to, out of curiosity, to see if there was any information on their investor conference. And on their website, it was announced November 20. So I wonder how he found out about it all the way back in October. Whether he's a shareholder or was a shareholder, or his family, who were rich and wealthy, by the way, were shareholders of that company, and were they receiving maybe, because when you're a shareholder of a company, and they will send you stuff sometimes in the mail, and inviting you to a whatever event or they will inform you, oh, we have an earnings call, or you're more than welcome to listen in, and so forth and so on. So I wonder if or maybe he knew someone who was actually owned shares in the company, because this is kind of a little odd that he was aware that this was happening. Or maybe he was aware of the company previously, before this year, and knew that they had some type of conference every year right around this time. How he knew that they were going to have it in New York, though, is a question, because a lot of companies, they will have some type of investor day, but they'll have it maybe on a different location or in a different part of the town, and so forth, or a different city. The complaint said later on that entry described an intent to whack the CEO of one of the insurance companies at the investor conference. That date was 6 weeks before the December 6th murder, the same day as the United Healthcare Group's investor conference. In a letter addressed to the feds, and we read this already, I showed you guys the manifesto. He basically says, and they cut out, by the way, the part where he says to the feds, I don't want to make your jobs difficult because I respect the work that you do. They cut out this part here, but I wasn't working with anyone. And he said the actions were self-funded. So, and they're talking about here a little bit about the hearing that happened earlier today. And then we're just going to go ahead and they're just talking about here that the district attorney in Pennsylvania said that they're, after this issue with the New York charges get settled, they're going to be waiting for him in Pennsylvania to carry out their own prosecution against him. So Mangione was indicted Tuesday by New York prosecutors on 11 counts. And then it's talking about his arrest. The 11-count indictment out of New York charges him with first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, one of which is charged as killing in the act of terrorism, 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 4 counts of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 1 count of fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of second-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said in a statement, Mangione's Pennsylvania attorney, Dickey, has said he will plead not guilty in the New York and Pennsylvania cases. Karen Friedman, now this is interesting here. Karen Friedman Agnifilo, one of the attorneys representing Mangione on the New York charges, said Wednesday night that they, quote, are ready to fight these charges in whatever court they are brought. Quote, the federal government's reported decision to pile on top of an already overcharged first-degree murder and state terror case is highly unusual and raises serious constitutional and statutory double jeopardy concerns. The double jeopardy is interesting, but I totally agree with her for the reasons that I stated before. This federal charge that I'm understanding from this article, so I'm just going by what this article is saying here, but they're saying that, so he crossed state lines and then he used electronic devices, he stalked this individual, and therefore he's open to a federal offense. the crime though was not, it's not like he robbed a bank and then he crossed a state line and is continuing to rob banks and moving from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So my understanding of the creation of the FBI is that came about. It was called the Bureau of Investigation before it became FBI during the FDR administration. But the problem that they were having was with bank robbers, apparently. And so what the bank robbers were doing, they would rob a bank. And these were bank robbers like John Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, the people, Bonnie and Clyde, those people who became famous after the stock market crash in 29, and people hated the banks and they saw them as kind of Robin Hood heroes. So these people would commit bank robberies and then they would flee that jurisdiction. And then they would commit another bank robbery and flee those jurisdictions, because the idea was then the local police authority could not follow them into those other jurisdictions, or they would have to coordinate with the other police departments in the other jurisdictions, making it harder to catch them, because law enforcement departments sometimes don't cooperate with one another, because though they're really sometimes unwilling to, like, they'll withhold most of what they consider their important evidence, because they don't want to sometimes give it out, because it's like you're giving out your ace, right? If it's out in the open, and if somebody in the other department leaks it to someone, and then and then it makes their way to the criminal, right? Then there goes their case. So that was the whole point of the creation of the FBI. These criminals, avoiding accountability by passing through different jurisdictions. But again, they would continue committing the crime after they crossed the state line. So the whole point of the FBI was to nab these criminals and to really be able to follow these criminals regardless of what state they went to. So this crime that he committed is a state crime, because he committed the crime in New York, killed one single individual, fled, and was arrested in Pennsylvania, but he was not doing anything in Pennsylvania other than having possession of an illegal weapon and having a fake ID. That's it. It does not rise to the level of what he's being charged with in New York. So, and there are other cases of people moving from one state to another and killing someone, and they're not charged federally, for doing that, because it's a state violation. It's not a federal offense. And I do agree with her. I think it does pose a serious constitutional issue, because if we allow, this has now become more than Luigi Mangione, because if we allow the feds to get away with this, then they're going to do it in other cases. Trust me. If you think that they're just only going to do this just to make an example, Mangione, we talked about the case of Breonna Boston, the woman who all she said on the phone to her insurance representative was deny, defend, depose, right? That's all she said. And she doesn't own firearms. And she is being charged, I believe, with terrorism charges in the state of Florida. So if they're already going after Luigi Mangione on this and Breonna Boston, they're going to go after other people who are critical of the insurance companies. And look at all the resources of the federal government. Now the federal government's getting involved, right? We don't see the federal government getting involved in other cases. Do we see the federal government getting involved in mass shootings? No. And actually, we in here in California, I just thought of this morning, we had an individual years ago who committed a mass shooting in Gilroy, California, okay? And he committed the mass shooting. This is in Northern California. And we have very strict gun regulations here in the state. So he actually bought bought his firearms in another state in Nevada. Okay, that individual was not charged federally at all. Well, I don't, and I don't. By the way, and I take that back. So I don't know if that guy was. I think he probably committed suicide or not. But in any event, there was no discussion. That was one case of somebody actually crossing state lines, right? And so we don't hear the federal government going after mass shooters and charging them with terrorism, or if they're buying a weapon from one state because that state has lax laws and committing the crime in another state, why are we not charging these people with those same terrorism charges that this guy here is going to? It just comes across, it just seems, in my opinion, that they're doing this because a CEO is involved, and it's the state of New York, and that's the home of Wall Street, the mecca of the financial industry. So they're going to do everything in their power to protect the financial interest of this country, and in this case, the health insurance industry. And it's just kind of astonishing that they're going this far to charge him with federal crimes and also a terrorism charge in the state of New York. So apparently, when I spoke, mentioning that Alvin Bragg was the one who charged Donald Trump in the Stormy Daniels case, and it seemed like the White House was really, pushing him to do that. I think the events recently bear that out, that this person here, Alvin Bragg, is just somebody who is easily influenced by the federal government to just do their bidding, because the whole point of him charging him with terrorism was so that it allowed the feds to come in and charge him with these federal crimes. And so now, if he's found guilty, if he's actually or ever arraigned federally, he can face the death penalty. There is no death penalty in the state of New York at the moment. So there it is. Please like the live stream and subscribe to our channel. This has been a PDR Live. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you think this is actually an actual federal crime that he committed? And do you think that this case has will have a chilling effect on other cases as well? Let me know. Thank you so much, and have a great day.